G'day and welcome to this, our 7th and final lesson in the Make Monkey Fracas Jr. in Godot 4 tutorial series. Jump on over to itch.io and to AJs Learning Lab there, grab the Monkey Fracas Jr. JPEG, the Game Over PNG and the Winner PNG that you will find in the tutorial series asset pack that I've put up over there. Let's start at the start. Let's make our start screen. So the first thing we're going to need to do is create a new scene. And for that new scene, we're going to give it a root node that is a control node. So let's have a look for our control node, and then let's rename our control node to start screen, just so we know what is what. All right, so there's our control node. If we zoom out a bit, get the whole frame in there. If we click up at this little button up the top here, we can actually make it so that that takes up the entire viewport, which is what we want for our control node. So that's done just by clicking on the little one up the top and then clicking there. So that's that. Now what we want to do is add our next node, and that is going to be a canvas layer as a child node of our start screen. And then as a child node of our canvas layer, we're going to add in a texture rect, which is where we can put our image for the background. And again, we're going to want that to take up the whole screen. Click back on our canvas layer node, click on plus for a new node. The next thing we're going to add is a button. And then the last thing we're going to add there is a line edit, which is where we can enter in the text we're going to enter in. So we want our button and our line edit to be in the middle somewhere. Let's give our button some text. So click on our inspector with our button selected, and then we can enter the text. And for this one, our button is just going to say start. Probably got the box a little bit big there. Now, one thing we can do with the fonts and things with our UI features, so the control nodes and buttons and all of that, is we can override the standards. So if we come back over to our inspector and we scroll down to this one here where it says theme overrides, you can then go down to font sizes and you can just play with that until you get a size that you like. So for us here, let's go with something like 30. There we go, that's pretty good. Let's reduce the button so it's a more suitable size. Let's also make sure we get this one in the middle. And then our text or our line edit, let's make that a bit bigger as well. Like so. Let's give that the middle and then just offset it. Okay, like that. And then what we want to do is put in some placeholder text, which will be initials. So that then shows you the initials, tells you what you need to do, right? We'll align that to the center like that. Excellent. So now let's click back on our texture rect, and then let's get that graphic in there. So the monkeyfracasjr.jpg is the one we're going to use. Hopefully you've already imported that in. Drag that into our empty texture rect. And there it is there, it appears. So let's save what we've done so far. We're going to save it to our scenes, and it's going to be called startscreen.tscn. Save that, brilliant. Now what we are going to do is move on to do the script for our start screen. Get our start screen script sorted. Let's click on our root node start screen. Let's add a script to it. And instead of saving it into scenes, we want to save this into scripts. /start screen, that's good. Create that. All right, so we're extending control, that's perfect, but there's a fair bit we've got to do here. Let's not waste our entire day with me typing everything, so I'm going to do a massive copy and paste here, and then we're going to talk through what we've got. All right, so the first thing we're doing is creating a variable called initials, because we want to be able to store those initials that are entered into the line edit. So that's our var initials, and at the moment it's empty. In our ready function, we're going to grab our button here, and our line edit here, and what we're going to do is we're going to turn our button off. We're going to disable it to start with, because we don't want people to be able to start the game until they've entered in their initials. Right, so then in the next one, we're just going to be checking to see if the text is changing in that initials column. If it does, we're going to run this little thing here on initials input text changed, which we then create here. So function on initials input text changed new text, so the text that's going in there. We want to be able to just remove any leading and trailing white space if we've got some spaces there. And then we want to make sure that the button gets enabled if this is no longer empty. Right, so we're turning on our start button if we've entered in our initials. And then on button pressed, well, if the initials isn't empty, we want to set the initials in our global script to be those initials, and then we want to start the game. So that is our start screen script. Let's save that to make sure we've got that all saved and ready to go. Let's even zoom in a bit so we can just make sure we can see everything. Take a screenshot, whatever you need to do to have that down. We're going to get stuck into our UI. So let's create a whole new scene, and we're going to give it a control node as its root node like we've done before. Let's rename that to UI. Let's give that a canvas layer, and I'm going to call that UI as well, just so I don't get confused at any point. All right, so what we've got so far is a brand new scene called UI. It starts with a control node as its root node and then a canvas layer node. What we're going to need in here are a few labels and a few buttons to display the things on the screen. So we want a label for each of our lives, our score, and our level, and we want a button for pause, quit, and restart. So let's add all that in now. So we're going to go add, start with our buttons, perhaps one button, oops, two buttons, three buttons, and then our labels. One label, two labels, three labels. All right, so there's our labels. Let's start by renaming these, I think. So we're going to have a lives label. Helps if I can type correctly. A level label and a score label. And for our buttons, we're going to have a pause button. We're going to have a quit button, and we're going to have a restart button. All right, that's the naming stuff done. Next, we want to get all that set up. So let's grab our 2D view, and you'll have a pretty ordinary looking pile of stuff. So let's try and separate this out now. So let's go to our pause button. Let's go and actually enter in our text. By entering the text in for these buttons, it's going to make it easier to work out what we're doing, right? Oh, so many things here, layers over layers. That's another label, is it? Move it, I think. Here we go. We've gotten to our pause button. Quit button. Quit. And our restart button. Restart. Okay. So there are those done. And what we want to do is we'll get these all lined up sort of here somewhere. We'll fiddle around with this in a bit. Restart. Let me zoom in, see what I'm doing. Get the snapping the grids on, that makes it a bit easier sometimes. There we go. All right, now let's work on those labels. So we've got this label first here, so our lives label. Let's put this one here. Something like that. And our level label can go above our restart one. Oh, I thought I moved the lives. What's going on here? Score is that one, yeah. So I'll put the score over there because that's the one that'll extend the most. Lives should be reasonably fixed in terms of its size, and levels won't get all that much bigger either, will it? But our score label, that one definitely might get bigger. So let's just leave that like that for now. We're going to save this scene as our UI.tscn. Perfect. And we want to now add in a script for this. So why don't we get stuck into that part next? So if you remember, we're going to go to our root node and we're going to go add script. This one we don't want it to save in the scenes folder, we want it to save in the scripts folder, and UI.gd sounds perfect. And that gives us our script to play around with here. So there is a fair bit that's going to go into here. None of it's particularly complicated, but it'll just take us a little while. Actually, it occurs to me I've added that to the root node. I was going to add that to the canvas, to that node, but I don't think it'll make too much difference. So let's just go through with this anyway. Let me get rid of all of this. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to have a ready function that's going to talk about our process mode. So let's just drop that in there. So we just want this to always be getting checked, right? Now in our function process, let's drop this one in here. We are going to grab a couple of things. So we want to grab our lives label. Let's grab that one. We want to grab our level label and we want to grab our score label, and we're going to do a few things with these here. So we want to go dot text equals, what's this one, lives. So this is just setting up the text for what's going to appear in this label. Plus we want to include the string from our global script that shows us what our lives are. So we want to have our lives labels text showing the word lives, the gap, and then we want to add into it whatever our global.live says. All right, so for our level labels, same sort of thing, dot text equals level, oops, did it again, like that, and then I'm sure you can work out what happens here, dot string global dot, I think it's player level, yep, and then our last one, dot text equals score, and then you can probably guess, I think we used a capital for that for some, oh, hang on, why are we in silly thing? All right, there we go. Global.score. That is setting up what we want our labels to do every frame. We want to make sure that they're updating with the correct information. So now we've got a few other functions we're going to need to create. So let's start off with patching through some buttons first. So let's click on our button, go to our node, and then go pressed. So we want to signal that through, signal our quit one through, and signal our restart through. All right, so we've signaled all those buttons through. Now we can get working on what goes on in there. So let's start off with our quit button, because that's probably the easiest, because it's just one line of code. So if we're going to quit, we just want to quit, right? Easy, done. Okay, so with our pause, let's do that one next, because that's got a little bit more to it, but it's actually still quite simple underneath. There's just a bit more of it. But if we read it through, you'll see. So, oops, I've done this all over too far. I've put in some comments just to make life a bit easier. Oh, no, that's there. What have I done? Getting this all over the shop. That one goes there, that one goes there. All right, that looks better. All right, so let's talk it through. So on pause button pressed, if we're already paused, we want to unpause the game by setting it to false. Otherwise, set it to true, right? That's all that's saying. So we check and see if we're already paused. If we're not, pause it. If we are, unpause it. If we're not, pause it. That's it. So let's have a look now at our restart button, because actually no, before we do a restart button, we're going to need to make a new function called restart, because I like to break these things off into individual functions as often as possible. Otherwise our code can get a bit blur. So here we go. We're making a new function called retry game. When we retry our game, we want to reset our score to 0, reset our lives to 3, and make sure that the monkey hasn't been spawned yet, right? So that's what happens when we retry. Now, let's actually call that. So in our restart button, we want to be able to call that function we just made. So let's find our restart button. Where is it? There, down the bottom. So let's call, oops, that retry game we just made, as well as going back to our first scene. So that is our UI all hopefully set up. Let's have a look at what that looks like. Okay, I need to do a little bit of alignment here, but by and large, that's worked out quite well. So let's grab our 2D view again, and it was our lives, then our level, lives, level, score. They actually look like they're roughly on the right spots. I'm not sure exactly what I've done here, but let's just try and line them up a bit. Also, you guys can work this out, right? You don't actually need me to fiddle around with this sort of stuff. Let's have one last look. Still completely wrong. I don't know what my problem is. It's the level one in the middle. Why? They look like they're on the same line. Oh well, there we go. That'll do. All right, let's save what we've done there. And our next task will be to have a look at our game over screen. We'll do our game over scene. So, new scene. It is going to have a control node as the root node again. Let's rename it to game over. We're going to want to give it a canvas layer. We're going to want to give it a few other things as well. So with our game over screen, what we want to keep it simple. I was going to do a scoreboard, but it's going to take us way too long, and I want to wrap this up. So let's just make a simple game over screen, I think. So in our canvas layer, let's have a color rect. Oops. Let's have a color rect for our background. Let's add a texture rect to show our stars, and then another texture rect to show our game over logo thing. And then I think we'll want a couple of buttons. 1 to quit, and 1 to retry. That's my plan anyway, so let's just rename these. Quit, restart. Excellent. All right, so let's go to our 2D view now. We'll grab our color rect to start with. Let's change that color to be black, like so. Let's set that to take up the whole screen. So if you click on this little one up here and go to that one, it takes up that whole screen that we've got. Now in our first texture rect, let's go and grab our stars. There they are, drag them over. We've got our star background. In our second one, we want to get our game over. Drop that in there. Let's just sort of get that centered. Actually, we can use this to get it centered, can't we? There we go. And then we just need some buttons. So here is button 1. This one was going to be called quit. And then let's override the theme so we get a nice big font. So I think 30 is what we normally go for here. So there's our quit, or 39 apparently. And then our last one is called restart. Let's also give that the same theme override. 39 apparently. Quit and restart. There we go. Let's just have a look. We got those. Yeah, look, that's good enough for me. All right, saving that. GameOver.tscm. Beautiful. Save that. And next things next, we're going to do our script for our game over scene. Attach a script to our root node there. Create that. There's not a lot we're going to do in here, to be perfectly honest. All right, all we really want to do is just have those buttons that we can press on. So let's get rid of all this. Let's signal our buttons through. Like that. And now all we want to do is just put in some basic code there. So you can probably remember how we actually do the quit one by now. So we want to go get tree quit. That's that one done. And then our restart one's a little bit different because we want to be able to get the variables reset as well. So let's just add into here. We want these variables to get reset, and then we want to go back to our first to our start of our scene like that. So let's save that. So our final one, let's just give it a quick view. So it comes up game over, quit and restart. Quit should just delete it. There we go. So that is that one done. Let's save what we've done. We're making some really good progress now, guys. I'm pretty thrilled. Actually, let's just check where I saved that, because sometimes I save these things in the wrong folder. I managed to get my GD. Yep, so my script for game over is in the scene. Let me just drag that down into the scripts one. There we go, fixed. All right, that is that bit done. We're getting close to wanting to test this, I think. The next thing we need to do is just get some of this gear into our main scene. So let's go to our background. Let's add into our background a new control node. And this particular control node we're going to set up here is just going to be the home of our UI, basically. So background plus control. And then let's find our UI down in our scenes UI. And we're just going to drag that up and drop it on our control node. If we now have a look at the 2D view, where's our background? There it is, yep. 2D view, our UI now appears in the corner as well. So let's save what we've got there. I think what we should do now is do a little update to our player, because as it stands, there's no way for our player to actually die. So grab your player's script and scene, and what we're going to do, we're going to start with the scene. So let's go to our 2D view. Here is our player as they currently stand, getting all exploded. Let's have a look. So here is our scene. We've got our animated sprite 2D, our collision shape, a camera 2D, and a laser. We actually want to add an area 2D to our player now, because that's going to be how we actually detect that we're getting blown up by the planet. So we're going to create a collision shape as a child node of the area 2D, and then we want to actually grab that area 2D and signal on area entered through to the player script like that. Brilliant. Now our collision shape, we need to add that. So grab our 2D view, grab our inspector, shape, circle shape, that's fine. So let's save it. Let's check on our animated sprite. Make sure your explode is not on loop. Okay, and now that is it, I think, for setting up our player. Let's go into the player script. Script view now. Here is our player script. All right, what we're going to do, we're going to start off by adding in a ready function. And in that ready function, we just want to be able to track when that explode animation stops, because we want our player to finish that animation before we do anything. So here's our ready function now. We're going to grab that animated sprite 2D over here. We want to connect to it, and we want to find out when that animation finishes, and when it does, we want to call this function that we haven't actually made yet. So why don't we make that function now, which is just this on animated sprite 2D finished. So let's grab that, copy that. We'll just do it down here. Don't forget we've got to do that area 2D as well. All right, so here's what we've got so far. On our animated sprite 2D animation finished, we want to take, if our lives are greater than 1, we want to take one of those away and then restart the level. We need to make that as well, the restart the level thing. So why don't we do that next? Nice and easy, copy. And here's our restart the level, which should make that error go away. What we want to do is just reset this monkey spawn variable and reload the current scene. So that is for that bit. What else do we need to do in here? Probably our game over function as well, because we would need to have that as an else. So let's actually go down here. Let's go else game over, like that. And then that just means we've got to make our game over as well, don't we? So let's do that. Copy. There we go. So all we're going to do there is just go to that game over scene that we haven't actually made yet, but we'll get there eventually. Oops, we need our closing commas as well. There we go. Now it might have an issue because we haven't made that scene yet, but that's cool. All right, now for our area 2D. So we've signaled it through. What do we want to happen in that area 2D? Well, essentially all we want to do is just play that animation that we've talked about. So animated sprite 2D.play explode. So we just want to play that animation when we enter that area 2D. Once that finishes, we're going to, if we've got more than one life, we'll take it away and then we'll restart the level. If we don't have more than one life, then it's game over. So that's what we're doing there. So you only get one hit, you know, a planet running into a ship. The ship probably shouldn't survive. So that should make sense to us all. Let's save that. That is our player updated. Of checks before we dive in. So let's go to our project settings. Let's just make sure that for our run, we have our start screen as our run there. So that means that when we run our game, that's the first thing that's going to load. Check our auto load that we've got our global in there. That's all good. All right. So like I said, we're not going to add in the score manager and all that. It's just going to add like another hour to this. And I want to finish this one before the new year. So that is all good. Let's give it a test, see if it works. Actually, at the moment, I've got my live set to 1 just so we can speed it through. So let's go. All right. AJ, start. Probably don't need the initials anymore, seeing as we're not doing the scorekeeper, but you know, it's all good. I might still do a shoot on that later. So we can shoot. Can we die? Yes, we can. Can we restart? Yes, we can. Can we quit up here? Yes, we can. All right, beautiful. It is all working perfectly. The next step is going to be how do we export it and then get it on into itch. So how do we export to itch.io? It's surprisingly easy. So we've got a game, we know it works. Let's actually, we should reset our lives to 3 before we export this. Okay, now project export is where you want to go to, and then we're greeted with this. Let me just delete that. All right, so what we want to do first off when you first go into the export settings is you want to add a new preset. So presets add, and it's going to be a web one. We can call it web, that's perfectly fine. You can leave everything set up exactly the way it is there and just click on export project. And yeah, we want to export it, just called index.html, into that folder that we created our project in, save that. Now what that does, I'll bring this over here, you should be able to see that as well. What that does is it creates a whole bunch of files in our folder that we were making that in. And we just want to zip that whole thing up. So I am just going to compress this like so. And then our next job is to jump into itch.io and actually upload it. So let's have a look at how we do that next. In your itch.io dashboard, you want to go create a new project, call it, you know, monkey fracker, whatever you want to call it. And then what we want to do, we go down here to where we've got kind of project. We don't want this to be downloadable. We want it to be HTML, and we have a zip or HTML file that will be played in the browser. Keep going down, shared array buffer support. We want to click on that one as well. All right, now back up to our uploads. We want to upload the file that we were just talking about. So for me, it is that one there. Open that. Please remove underscore and minus at the start and end of my URL. What? Ah, I see what it is. I think it's just that there. Get rid of that. That's just a weird, dodgy. Let's just go something a bit simple. Monkey frack. All right, let's try again. Upload. Monkey frack at Genius 7. Upload. That was a weird error. Okay, that seems to be uploading successfully. Hopefully, I've set this up correctly and I won't be deeply embarrassed. Okay, so far so good. Cool. That's done. Okay, I'm happy with that. So let's save and view that page. There's obviously a lot of things you can sort out there, but that's not what we're doing today. You can spend your time reading those. Let's just wait for it to load. Okay, run game, fingers crossed. It's loading. There we go. And we can put our initials in and then we can start. And we have made a game that we have put onto itch. There's a few issues there with the window size and that. That was a mammoth episode, but we got there. So what you must do to make sure it all works is get that start and end scene and script made, UI scene and script made, as well as updating the player and main scenes. You may like to upload it to itch.io, and you might like to then let your friends know how amazing you are with your very own game uploaded to the internet that they can play. And an Australian quote for you today from Henry Lawson, one of our most famous authors and poets. And Henry once said, "I have never seen anyone rehabilitated by punishment." Thanks, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.